You're listening to Travel Nursing and Allied Life, hosted by TravCon.
Hey Nomads, this is Dylan Callier, traveling physical therapist of 4 years, as well as Allied Committee member for TravCon. You might most recognize my voice from the New Medical Nomads podcast. I'm excited to announce this new session of the Travel Nursing and Allied Life podcast. This is going to be the Allied Minute, and this will be focusing on all things Allied, which has been very, very exciting because we've grown so much in such a small period of time. So the Allied Room has been a new addition within the past 2 to 3 years, and we've grown exponentially. And it's very, very cool. So this first episode, what I wanted to do is give a rundown on TravCon, what happened at TravCon 2021 for us Allied persons. And I got some exciting numbers here to talk about. So very, very excited to share the final numbers that came from the conference. So total Allied this year was around 150, 160 individuals. I'm going to go in order of highest to lowest of those individuals. And then we're going to talk about the conference a little bit and how everything, what the conference means for us, for Allied persons, and how you can make the best of it as an Allied individual. What is Allied? Pretty much anything outside of nursing directly. Scrub techs, you kind of fall into nursing for most staffing agencies, so I won't be talking about you here. But for example, out of those 150 total Allied this year, we had around 50 physical therapists. This is pretty significant because my first year at TravCon, there was only 40 Allied people total. The year before that was around 10 total. So already with the top professions that are coming for the Allied sessions, we've already maxed out, what the numbers looked like 4 years ago. So around 50 physical therapists. Next in line, around 30 radiology technicians and technologists. This was a huge jump, guys. This was a huge jump from 2 years ago, from 2019. In 2019, we had less than 10 rad techs, rad technologists, and now you guys have tripled pretty much. And so we'll talk a little bit about that with how that's going to reflect in the sessions, but I was very excited to see those numbers. After that, it's going to be around 20 occupational therapists, and also around 20 sonographers that joined us for TravCon 2021. And then following up is around 10 speech-language pathologists, around 10 respiratory therapists, and around 10 clinical lab professionals. Overall numbers, Allied made up around 10 to 12% of the conference this year. And that would be what I would say is around the percentage of the amount of travelers there are to travel nurses. Every year, we come up with new Allied sessions for the following year. So right after the TravCon, right after the conference, the committee's already meeting to plan next year. And this year, with the amount of explosion that happened with radiology, it's clear that we need to have more representation in the Allied room. And so that's very exciting. So those that had joined this year and had kind of come up to me and said, hey, we really need more sessions for us, I totally agree. This was something we totally weren't prepared for, so this is great. So you can plan on that happening for next year. Now, for other sessions, when we started the Allied room, when I was coming, when there was only 40 of us Allied coming, all the sessions were pretty much geared towards nurses. Now that still remains true, and we're having the slow transfer of speakers to have more inclusive languages. The language between Allied and nursing is very different, and the language between Allied within ourselves, between therapy and radiology and clinical lab, is very different as well. And so it's kind of the Wild West. There's a lot to learn. There's reasons that staffing agencies have a harder time coming into Allied once they've had a really strong hold in the nursing space. It's often why a lot of recruiters are unable to learn both the sides of Allied and also nursing. So the big takeaway even if you are going to a session and they are saying travel nursing, travel nursing, travel nursing, unless it comes down to clinical, credential, or your actual orientation on that job, everything's pretty much the same. For travel therapy, for travel radiology, travel sonography, travel lab, there was around 100 other that we couldn't quite see. Either they didn't fill out the appropriate form or we're just not capturing them with our little click boxes. And so if you are in the other, sorry, and just make sure to put it in. We have an open spot that you can put in what your profession is, what your specialty is. So be sure to put in that. But for the most part, most of these sessions, even though they're saying travel nursing, most of that's also going to apply for you. Again, the exceptions are going to mostly be in credentialing, like how fast and what's the turnaround for state licensures. Compacts are pretty rare to come by outside of the nursing profession. Orientation, what does orientation look like? For certain specialties and professions in allied, that can be up to a week long. For certain specialties, I mean, you're hitting the ground running. I would say most travel is very quick orientation, but that orientation is going to look very different for nursing as well. And finally, the overall market is going to be different. So during one of my sessions that I was talking at this year at TravCon 2021, I mentioned that there's not a lot of coverage for allied, especially in individuals. The biggest coverage that we really saw by staffing industry analysts, which is like the big analyzing company that looks at all the nursing information, they said there was a big shift from PT, OT, SLP to respiratory during 2020, which is a big yes, like duh. But they didn't have numbers, all of that information. So what we're trying to do with the Allied Room is have more specifics on those areas that aren't going to be the same when you talk about travel nursing. So again, that's going to be mostly credentialing, that's going to be the market, and it's going to be around orientation and clinical aspects as well. So guys, I'm very excited for this. We are growing as an allied profession, as an allied presence at TravCon. I've even talked with multiple nurses that were like, hey, before this used to be all nurses, now like almost at least one person in every group is outside the nursing profession. So if you want more representation within the Allied Room, whether it be sessions, whether it be episodes here on the Allied Minute, invite your friends of your same profession and tell those friends to invite their friends of the same profession. I would love to see this 10% grow greater than the amount that is perceived for the amount of travelers out there of allied versus nursing. Again, those numbers are hard to come by because not a lot of reports are out there. Thank you so much. I'm excited to introduce the Allied Minute. I'm excited to say we are growing. If you are worried that this is a nursing-only conference, it is not. Bring your allied friends. It is a great time, and we will all see you at the next TravCon in 2022.
Thanks for listening to Travel Nursing and Allied Life. You can find the full show notes below or at travcon.org. Please help us out by rating our podcast on iTunes or wherever you get your podcasts.